It began as a hushed discussion inside the walls of Windsor, one that aides desperately tried to dismiss and courtiers quietly avoided. Yet the expression on Prince William's face after that private gathering revealed what no official statement could conceal. Something extraordinary had been discovered, and at the center of it stood Prince George. What first appeared to be another rumor soon exploded into a royal storm that no one could contain. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. For days, whispers moved quietly through palace corridors, though almost nobody seemed willing to explain exactly what had happened. According to reports circulating among royal observers, an unusually private meeting had been arranged involving Prince William, Princess Catherine, trusted royal solicitors, and several estate trustees whose names had rarely surfaced in public discussions. Even seasoned palace insiders reportedly noticed something unusual. The atmosphere surrounding the gathering appeared far more serious than routine. Discussions concerning family affairs or charitable commitments. Something larger was unfolding behind closed doors, and the extraordinary level of secrecy only deepened the mystery. Different interpretations of the meeting suggest that several long-forgotten inheritance papers had unexpectedly resurfaced during a review of historical records connected to royal properties. Sources close to the matter claimed that these documents had remained hidden for decades, their contents known only to a small number of legal advisors entrusted with preserving sensitive family arrangements. As whispers intensified, senior aides were reportedly instructed to avoid discussing the matter altogether. Such silence immediately fueled speculation. After all, secrecy within royal circles often signals something far more significant than ordinary administrative matters. What made the rumors even more intriguing was the repeated mention of an ancient country estate, a property surrounded by decades of mystery, and spoke about only in fragments among historians and longtime royal watchers. Some described it as a forgotten treasure. Others referred to it as a place protected by traditions older than many modern institutions themselves. But whatever the truth might be, reports suggested that its future had suddenly become the subject of intense discussions among those closest to the throne. As the hours passed, Prince William and Princess Catherine reportedly remained deeply focused on the implications of the discovery. Several insiders claimed that the Prince and Princess of Wales understood immediately that whatever had been uncovered would carry consequences far beyond property ownership. This was about legacy, it was about history, and perhaps most importantly, it was about responsibility. Such matters have always carried enormous weight inside the House of Windsor, where decisions made generations earlier continue to shape the future of those born into royal life. According to various reports, Prince George himself was quietly informed about the development. The conversation was said to have been handled with extraordinary care. Though still young, the future king has long been prepared for the reality that duty often arrives without warning. Those familiar with William and Catherine's approach to parenthood believe they have consistently sought to balance normal family life with the immense responsibilities that accompany royal destiny. Yet even they could not have anticipated the remarkable chain of events now unfolding. Meanwhile, media insiders began quietly acknowledging that something unusual had been brewing for weeks. Small clues, overlooked comments, and subtle shifts inside palace circles suddenly appeared far more meaningful. What had initially been dismissed as idle gossip was beginning to transform into something much larger. And while many questions remained unanswered, one truth seemed increasingly difficult to ignore. Whatever had been discovered inside those forgotten papers had the power to reshape expectations that some individuals had quietly held for years. But the revelation itself was only the beginning, because hidden inside those papers was a decision that would leave another branch of the family completely stunned. For decades, whispers surrounded the so-called forbidden royal country estate, a place rarely mentioned and almost never discussed publicly. Hidden beneath generations of tradition, its future had remained uncertain. Yet early in 2026, forgotten records reportedly surfaced, forcing palace insiders to confront a question many believed had already been settled. The mystery surrounding the estate had long fascinated those who closely followed the history of the House of Windsor. Unlike the more famous royal residences that regularly captured public attention, this particular property existed almost like a ghost from another age. Its name rarely appeared in official conversations, and even among seasoned historians, references to it were often accompanied by uncertainty and unanswered questions. Over the years, countless stories emerged regarding its origins, its purpose, and the reason why successive generations appeared determined to keep it away from public discussion. That silence only strengthened its reputation as one of the monarchy's most closely guarded legacies. According to various interpretations circulating among royal observers, the estate carried enormous historical significance. It was said to represent more than land or wealth. Instead, it symbolized continuity, duty, and the unbroken connection between generations of sovereigns who viewed certain properties not as personal possessions, but as sacred responsibilities to be protected for the future. Sources familiar with royal traditions suggested that Queen Elizabeth II herself held deep respect for the property's place within the family's history. Though she rarely spoke publicly about such matters, many believed she understood better than anyone the importance of preserving certain legacies beyond the influence of modern controversies. Yet perhaps the most intriguing aspect was the unusual title attached to the estate. Why had it become known as forbidden? That question had puzzled historians for decades. Different theories emerged over the years. Some believed the designation originated from strict inheritance arrangements established generations earlier. Others suggested that complex legal conditions had effectively shielded the property from outside influence. Whatever the explanation, one fact remained remarkably consistent. Ownership discussions surrounding the estate had always been conducted in extraordinary secrecy, with only a select number of trustees and advisors fully aware of the arrangements governing its future. As the newly discovered documents attracted attention, trustees reportedly began revisiting legal structures that had not been thoroughly examined. Years, palace insiders described lengthy consultations involving historians, estate managers, and royal solicitors determined to understand the full implications of what had been uncovered. Those conversations reportedly reopened questions that many had considered permanently resolved. What had once seemed like a forgotten chapter of royal history was suddenly returning to the center of attention, bringing with it consequences nobody had anticipated. Meanwhile, interest among royal watchers continued to grow. Every small development fueled fresh speculation. Longtime observers revisited old reports, historians searched through archives, and media insiders quietly acknowledged that something unprecedented might be unfolding. Behind the scenes, anxiety reportedly spread among certain individuals who understood that the outcome could affect far more than a single property. Because while the public focused on the estate itself, those closest to the situation knew that another issue was emerging beneath the surface, one capable of triggering disappointment, controversy, and perhaps even heartbreak. But while historians focused on the estate's past, another question was quietly causing panic behind palace walls. As news spread among royal circles, expectations and assumptions reportedly collided. What some believed was guaranteed suddenly became uncertain. And according to palace whispers, one particular claim had already been discussed long before the latest discovery changed everything. The deeper royal historians examined the forgotten estate, the more questions began emerging behind closed doors. What had started as a remarkable inheritance story was slowly evolving into something far more delicate. According to various reports circulating among palace insiders, there had long been assumptions surrounding who might eventually benefit from the mysterious property. Those expectations had quietly existed for years, largely hidden from public view, yet understood by certain observers who believed that the changing structure of the modern royal family might open unexpected possibilities. But the sudden appearance of forgotten documents threatened to rewrite those assumptions in ways few had imagined. Reports suggesting expectations surrounding Archie gradually became part of the growing discussion. Different interpretations emerged among royal commentators, with some believing that evolving family dynamics had encouraged hopes that the estate's future could eventually include branches of the family living outside traditional royal duties. Others argued that such assumptions were based more on speculation than established arrangements. Yet one fact seemed impossible to ignore. The latest discoveries had revived questions that many had considered too sensitive to discuss openly. And once those questions surfaced, they became increasingly difficult to contain. As whispers intensified, tensions between different factions reportedly began to grow. Palace administrative circles, according to several observers, described an atmosphere of unusual caution. Nobody wanted to speak publicly, yet concern quietly spread among individuals familiar with the significance of the matter. Sources close to royal operations suggested that discussions had become increasingly complex, with every possibility being carefully examined. The issue was no longer simply about property. It had become entangled with history, responsibility, and the traditions that have shaped the monarchy for generations. Meanwhile, legal advisors reportedly found themselves revisiting inheritance principles and examining long-standing arrangements with extraordinary care. Those familiar with royal protocols understood that such matters are rarely straightforward. Ancient customs, historical precedents, and carefully preserved agreements often carry weight that extends far beyond modern expectations. According to various interpretations, the rediscovered documents forced experts to reconsider questions involving succession traditions and bloodline responsibilities, creating a wave of uncertainty unlike anything many palace insiders had experienced in recent years. Outside royal circles, media speculation reached remarkable levels. Commentators revisited old reports, historians debated historical precedents, and royal watchers searched for clues hidden within previous statements and family developments. Every rumor seemed to spark another theory. Every silence created fresh questions. The fascination surrounding the mysterious estate transformed into a much larger debate about legacy itself. Why had the property remained protected for so long? Why had ownership arrangements been kept hidden? And perhaps most importantly, why had these forgotten papers appeared now? Behind the scenes, insiders reportedly acknowledged that emotions were beginning to rise. Some individuals feared disappointment. Others worried about controversy. And while nobody seemed willing to predict the final outcome, many quietly recognized that the answers resting inside those documents possessed the power to shatter assumptions that had survived for years. Because hidden within those papers was not merely an explanation about ownership, but a decision capable of changing expectations forever and leaving certain hopes painfully out of reach. But the truth hidden inside the documents would soon turn assumptions into disappointment. When trustees finally examined the forgotten papers, silence reportedly filled the room. The language inside was said to be unmistakable. Years of speculation disappeared in an instant, replaced by a revelation that would reshape expectations throughout the House of Windsor. After weeks of mounting uncertainty and growing whispers inside royal circles, the moment many had anticipated had finally arrived. According to various reports, the carefully preserved documents were brought before a small group of trusted individuals whose responsibility was to determine their meaning and legal significance. Royal solicitors, estate managers, and senior trustees reportedly gathered with extraordinary caution, fully aware that what they were about to examine could affect generations of history. The atmosphere surrounding the review was said to be unlike anything experienced in recent memory. Years of assumptions rested upon papers that had remained hidden from public attention, and nobody present could predict the consequences waiting within those sealed instructions. Sources familiar with the matter suggested that the language contained inside the documents left very little room for interpretation. What many had expected to involve complicated debates and lengthy disputes instead appeared to offer remarkable clarity. Various interpretations described references to carefully preserved wishes associated with Queen Elizabeth II and long-standing arrangements intended to protect the future of a legacy that had been guarded for decades. For some observers, this represented the continuation of a philosophy that had guided the late queen throughout her reign: duty before emotion, continuity before controversy, and preservation above all else. According to Palace Whispers, the discovery itself immediately altered the direction of every conversation taking place behind closed doors. The mystery surrounding ownership had finally been answered. Reports suggested that Prince George had been identified as the intended future inheritor of the so-called forbidden estate, ending years of speculation that had quietly circulated among royal commentators and insiders. Though still young, the future king suddenly found himself connected to a responsibility far greater than anyone had imagined only weeks earlier. What had once been considered merely a forgotten chapter of royal history had transformed into an extraordinary inheritance carrying enormous symbolic importance. The reaction among senior advisors was reportedly one of profound astonishment. Several insiders described a level of surprise that few had anticipated. Even individuals familiar with royal traditions acknowledged that the discovery exceeded expectations. Questions that had fueled speculation for years were suddenly answered, yet those answers brought with them entirely new concerns. Because while the documents had resolved the mystery of ownership, they had also exposed the painful reality that certain assumptions held elsewhere would now face unavoidable disappointment. Almost immediately, reports suggested that consultations began taking place throughout palace circles. Senior figures, trusted advisors, and legal experts reportedly moved quickly to understand the wider implications of the revelation. Every aspect of the discovery had to be considered carefully. This was no ordinary inheritance. It involved legacy, symbolism, and the future identity of a family institution built upon centuries of carefully maintained traditions. Sources close to royal operations claimed that discussions continued long into the following days, as the magnitude of what had been uncovered gradually became impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, outside observers sensed that something significant had shifted. Historians revisited forgotten records, royal commentators renewed old debates, media speculation intensified, yet behind all the headlines and growing fascination, those closest to the matter reportedly understood that the story was entering an entirely new chapter, because confirming Prince George's inheritance had not ended the controversy. In many ways, it had only just begun, but the consequences of that discovery were only beginning to unfold. With emotions rising and speculation spreading, Prince William reportedly moved quickly. Determined to preserve what insiders called a sacred royal legacy, the heir to the throne was said to have worked closely with trusted advisors to ensure the decision would face no challenge. The discovery confirming Prince George's connection to the Forbidden Estate had created an atmosphere unlike anything palace circles had experienced in years. Questions were coming from every direction, rumors were multiplying, and speculation threatened to transform a deeply personal matter into a public controversy. According to various reports, Prince William understood immediately that hesitation could create uncertainty where clarity was desperately needed. Those familiar with the Prince of Wales described him as fully aware of the enormous responsibility now resting upon his shoulders. For William, this was never simply about land or inheritance. It was about protecting a legacy entrusted to future generations and ensuring that centuries of tradition remained secure. Sources close to palace operations suggested that William maintained regular discussions with trustees and legal advisors as they worked to understand every aspect of the newly uncovered arrangements. Reports indicated that the prince carefully reviewed recommendations and sought guidance from those who had spent decades preserving royal traditions. Rather than allowing emotions or outside pressures to influence the process, insiders claimed he focused entirely on stability and continuity. In many ways, observers noted that his approach reflected principles long associated with Queen Elizabeth II herself: duty first, responsibility above all, and preservation of the institution beyond individual interests. According to various interpretations, Princess Catherine played an equally important role during this sensitive period. Those familiar with the couple often described their partnership as one built upon quiet support and shared values. Reports suggested that Catherine understood the significance of the inheritance and the importance of helping Prince George prepare for responsibilities that had arrived much earlier than anyone anticipated. Senior members of the family were also said to have offered support, recognizing that the situation required unity rather than division. For those concerned with preserving stability, protecting tradition had become the highest priority. Behind closed doors, conversations reportedly shifted toward the future. Sources suggested that discussions no longer focused solely on ownership, but on responsibility. What role would Prince George one day play in safeguarding this remarkable piece of royal history? How should he be prepared for the expectations accompanying such a legacy? These questions reportedly occupied the minds of advisors and family members alike. Because while inheritance can provide privilege, it also carries obligations that cannot be ignored. And those closest to the young prince reportedly wanted to ensure he understood the deeper meaning behind what had been entrusted to him. Meanwhile, palace officials quietly attempted to prevent unnecessary controversy. According to several observers, efforts were made to avoid public disputes and maintain a sense of calm while discussions continued behind the scenes. Gradually, reports suggested that acceptance of the outcome began spreading among those familiar with the facts. Historians acknowledged the importance of precedent. Legal experts recognized the clarity of the documents. Even longtime royal commentators started describing the discovery as a continuation of established traditions, rather than a shocking departure from them. Yet beneath the growing sense of order, another reality remained impossible to ignore. because while some individuals were beginning to accept the outcome, others reportedly faced profound disappointment. And as emotions continued to simmer quietly beneath the surface, insiders feared that unresolved feelings elsewhere could eventually reignite, tensions that many hoped had finally been laid to rest. But even as order returned, disappointment elsewhere threatened to create fresh tensions. What began as a private inheritance matter soon became a source of intense discussion across royal circles. Different interpretations emerged, emotions reportedly ran high, and some insiders described the atmosphere as one of quiet disbelief. In the days following the confirmation surrounding the Forbidden Estate, the mood inside royal circles reportedly changed dramatically. What had once been confined to a handful of trustees and legal advisors was now the subject of endless conversations among those connected to the institution. According to various reports, reactions differed considerably from one individual to another. Some viewed the outcome as a natural continuation of centuries-old traditions. Others were said to have been surprised by the speed with which long-standing assumptions had been overturned. Yet despite the differing opinions, few questioned the significance of what had just taken place. Something historic had unfolded, and everyone seemed to understand that its effects would be felt for years to come. Sources familiar with palace operations suggested that emotions quietly ran high among family members. While public silence remained firmly in place, private reactions reportedly ranged from relief to disappointment. Those closest to Prince William and Princess Catherine were said to believe that the discovery represented a victory for continuity and responsibility. Others, however, reportedly struggled to reconcile the outcome with expectations that had developed over time. According to several insiders, there was no dramatic confrontation or open conflict, but rather an atmosphere shaped by disbelief and careful restraint. In royal life, silence often speaks louder than words, and many observers noted that the absence of public statements only added to the growing intrigue. At the same time, conflicting opinions emerged within royal circles themselves. Historians revisited ancient precedents while commentators debated whether the discovery reflected long-standing customs or simply the wishes of previous generations preserved through legal arrangements. Some argued that the outcome demonstrated the enduring strength of tradition. Others questioned whether modern expectations had underestimated the importance of established inheritance principles. Whatever the perspective, one thing became increasingly clear. The rediscovered documents had forced everyone to reconsider assumptions that had once seemed beyond challenge. Outside palace walls, media attention continued to intensify. Every development generated fresh speculation. Royal experts examined historical records, commentators discussed bloodline traditions, and countless observers attempted to piece together how a forgotten estate had suddenly become one of the most fascinating stories surrounding the monarchy. Public interest reached remarkable levels, with many people expressing curiosity not simply about the inheritance itself, but about the deeper meaning behind it. Why had the arrangements remained hidden for so long? Why had the estate been protected with such secrecy? And what did the decision reveal about the priorities of those who had established these plans decades earlier? Meanwhile, palace staff reportedly maintained extraordinary discipline. Sources suggested that aides and advisors avoided fueling rumors, choosing instead to preserve stability while discussions continued privately. Their silence only increased public fascination. For many observers, the story had evolved into something larger than property or wealth. It had become a conversation about legacy, about duty, about how generations of royal figures sought to protect certain traditions from the changing pressures of modern times. Suddenly, the Forbidden Estate was no longer just a mystery from the past. It had become a symbol of continuity stretching across decades. And as speculation continued to grow, one reality remained impossible to ignore. Behind all the discussions, debates, and conflicting emotions, there was still one individual whose future had been forever altered by the extraordinary decision. Because regardless of the controversy surrounding the discovery, the story had always been leading toward a single figure whose name now stood firmly at the center of history. But amid the speculation, one figure remained at the center of the historic decision. For Prince George, the inheritance represented far more than property. According to royal observers, it symbolized history, duty, and expectations stretching far beyond his years. What had been passed down was not merely an estate, but a responsibility tied to the future of the monarchy itself. As the conversation surrounding the Forbidden Estate gradually settled, Attention increasingly shifted toward the young royal, whose name had unexpectedly become linked to one of the family's most closely guarded legacies. According to various royal observers, the inheritance was never viewed simply as ownership. Instead, it represented something much deeper. For generations, members of the House of Windsor have understood that certain privileges arrive hand in hand with obligations, and many insiders believe that this remarkable discovery carried exactly that kind of meaning. The estate itself may have captured headlines, but behind the fascination surrounding its history stood a larger truth. What had been entrusted to Prince George symbolized continuity, service, and a connection to those who had come before him. Reports suggested that Prince William and Princess Catherine viewed the matter through the lens of responsibility rather than celebration. Sources close to the family often described the Prince and Princess of Wales as deeply committed to preparing their children for the realities of royal life without placing unnecessary burdens upon them. Yet even they reportedly recognized the extraordinary significance of what had emerged. According to several observers, their priority remained ensuring that Prince George understood not merely the privilege associated with the inheritance, but the values that accompanied it. Duty, humility, and respect for history have long defined the traditions they hope to pass forward, and many believed those principles would become even more important in the years ahead. The legacy left behind by previous generations also weighed heavily on the story. Historians frequently point to the enduring influence of Queen Elizabeth II and the careful manner in which she sought to preserve continuity within the institution she served for more than 70 years. Various interpretations suggested that the arrangements connected to the Forbidden Estate reflected that same philosophy. The future, according to those familiar with royal traditions, has always been built upon foundations established decades earlier, and now, through a chain of unexpected discoveries, Prince George had become part of that unbroken connection stretching from one generation to the next. Public fascination surrounding his role only continued to grow. Royal commentators examined every detail, historians revisited forgotten precedents, and observers around the world found themselves drawn to a story that seemed to combine mystery, legacy, and the promise of the future. Many viewed Prince George not only as the eventual heir to the throne, but as a symbol of stability during a period of great change for the monarchy. The inheritance, therefore, carried significance beyond private family matters. It represented hope, continuity, and the belief that traditions carefully protected by previous generations would survive into the future. Yet with such symbolism came expectations. According to royal experts, responsibility often arrives long before experience. The weight of history does not wait for perfect timing. It simply passes from one generation to the next. And while Prince George's future remains unwritten, those closest to the family reportedly understand that the remarkable events surrounding the Forbidden Estate have already become part of his story. A story defined not by wealth but by service, not by privilege but by duty. And perhaps hidden beneath all the controversy and speculation, there was an even deeper lesson waiting to reveal itself. But perhaps the greatest lesson hidden within the story was still waiting to be understood. In the end, the controversy surrounding the forbidden royal country estate became about far more than ownership. It became a story of legacy, tradition, and the enduring power of decisions made long ago. And as the dust slowly settled, one truth appeared impossible to ignore. What had started as a quiet legal discovery had transformed into something much larger than anyone initially imagined. For months, royal observers had focused on rumors, expectations, and speculation surrounding the mysterious estate. Yet as the story unfolded, it became increasingly clear that the heart of the matter had never truly been about land, wealth, or status. Instead, it had become a powerful reminder of the values that generations of royal figures had fought to preserve. According to many historians and commentators, the extraordinary events surrounding the Forbidden Estate represented the triumph of continuity over uncertainty and the enduring strength of traditions established long before the modern age. Throughout the history of the monarchy, traditions have often served as invisible threads connecting one generation to the next. While times change and circumstances evolve, certain principles remain remarkably resilient. Sources familiar with royal customs frequently point to the importance of preserving historical legacies not for personal gain but for the stability of the institution itself. In many ways, the story of the Forbidden Estate reflected that philosophy. The decisions made decades earlier had outlived changing expectations, proving that some responsibilities are intended to transcend temporary controversies and remain protected for the future. The inheritance decision itself also left a lasting impact. According to various interpretations, the discovery reinforced the importance of careful planning and the extraordinary influence that previous generations continued to exercise long after they are gone. The wishes associated with the late Queen Elizabeth II and the traditions she dedicated her life to preserving appeared to shape events in ways few could have predicted. For many royal watchers, that realization became one of the most remarkable aspects of the entire story. It demonstrated how history itself can continue to guide the future, even when those responsible for creating that history are no longer present. At the center of that future stands Prince George. Though still young, his role within the monarchy continues to attract enormous attention. Observers around the world increasingly view him as a symbol of continuity and hope, representing the next chapter in a story stretching back centuries. The responsibility connected to the Forbidden Estate is likely to become only one part of a much larger destiny awaiting the future king. Guided by Prince William and Princess Catherine, many believe he will carry forward the lessons of duty, humility, and service that have defined some of the monarchy's most respected figures. Perhaps the greatest lesson hidden within the controversy is that expectations do not always determine outcomes. History, tradition, and responsibility often possess a strength that modern assumptions fail to recognize. While disappointment and speculation became part of the story, they were ultimately overshadowed by something much more enduring: the importance of protecting legacies, the value of honoring commitments made by previous generations, and the understanding that some responsibilities are meant to serve not individuals, but the institution itself. That is why the story continues to fascinate royal watchers around the world, because beneath the mystery, the headlines, and the endless speculation lies something timeless. A reminder that the monarchy is built not only upon crowns and ceremonies, but upon continuity, sacrifice, and the quiet decisions that shape the future long after they are made. And perhaps that is the reason this extraordinary chapter will continue to be remembered long after the debates have faded and the headlines have disappeared. And although the headlines may eventually fade, the consequences of this extraordinary decision are likely to echo throughout the royal family for generations to come. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.